Welcome back to Cruising Off Duty, and welcome to the playlist we're calling Circling Lake Ontario. I believe this is the 5th episode in that series. We started at our home base in Kingston, and we've done through the Bay of Quinte, through the Murray Canal, out into Lake Ontario proper, then to Cobourg, and the last episode we ended at Whitby. Now, the premise of this series is we're going to stop at all the locations in a circle around Lake Ontario. We're going to show you the best places you can go that you can either anchor in a protected harbor or get a slip in a marina or a yacht club so that you're off Lake Ontario, because you certainly do not want to anchor overnight in the wide open Lake Ontario, because even the slightest bit of wind will cause some massive waves. So yes, this is important. You definitely want to find the places that have something to do, but also is a protected harbor for your safety while you're sleeping. And just as importantly as where you're going to sleep at night, it's what are you going to do when you get there? Are there parks? Are there things you can walk to? Or do you need a scooter, or in our case, a scooter and an EUC to get around to see the sights and things that you want to do? Plus, there's always provisioning, which is usually not right beside where your boat is. So yeah, you need to get to the store and carry groceries around. So I highly suggest a scooter, or at the very least, folding bikes that you can store on your boat. All right, let's show you where we're going to be heading from and to. On the Navionics, you can see in the top right corner, that is Whitby, where we're leaving from. And we are heading west towards Toronto. And we're going to end up at Scarborough, which is kind of the east edge of Toronto. The first anchor symbol just to the west of where we started is Pickering. Now, we have been in there before. It is a place you can go in and anchor. It's called Frenchman's Bay. So if you don't have a slip, or the weather's just getting really nasty and you want a place to duck into, Frenchman's Bay is an option. The only downside is Frenchman's Bay is very shallow and very weedy. So especially if you're a sailboat with a long keel, you may get kind of stuck in the weeds if you get outside of the normal path of travel. So just keep that in mind. And the next anchor symbol we bypass is another marina in Scarborough, a little bit to the east of where we ended up. It's just there in case you want to check it out. We've never stopped there. We've always stopped at usually when we get this close, we can just get to Toronto, because as you can see, it's just around the corner. And as you can see from the top left corner, if you go pretty much direct route there, it's going to take you about 4 hours and 10 minutes, and that's at an estimated speed of about 5 knots. Okay, let's get to the footage of us making this little passage. So as you can see, not a lot of wind. You can usually tell by there's no whitecaps, very little waves, so not much in the way of sailing, which is kind of fine. I don't know if you're a powerboater, you may not know this. Sailboats are extremely efficient through the water when motoring. And in my case, I think I only have like a 30 horsepower engine. So it's sipping gas. So there's worse things that could happen. Instead of us having to motor the whole way, we could be pounding into extremely uncomfortable waves if we were in a rush to get somewhere and we really needed to go dead into the wind. So, or even beam to the wind is very uncomfortable as well. So sometimes when we get these super calm days, we're not exactly heartbroken that we're just going to fire on the Iron Jenny and just motor the whole way. But yeah, I mean, I know to the hardcore sailors, it's very disappointing that we're not zigzagging all over the place and sailing, but we needed to get to Toronto by Canada Day, and at this point it was the 29th of June. Canada Day is July 1st, so yeah, it's not a bad thing. And here we are about to pull into Ashbridge's Bay, and we are really close to Toronto. You can see the skyline there, see the kind of the outline of the CN Tower. Usually that is very easy to see from here, but this is the summer of the Canadian wildfires, where there was this constant smoke haze in the air, which made it seem super smoggy. But even though Toronto is the biggest city in Canada by population, it doesn't have smog. So I just thought I'd tell you in case you're from some other part of the world and think, man, they have some serious smog problems. No, just Canadian wildfires. Now I'm going to bring out another hyperlapse. I just find that these are the best way to give you the complete picture of the lay of the land of certain locations without boring you with like 30 minutes of footage of me sailing into these harbors. But this is the entrance to Ashbridge's Bay Yacht Club. Again, very protected. You get in here and there's all sorts of land that's blocking waves, wind, whatnot. So it's a great spot, but this is not one of those spots where you can also anchor. It's strictly the yacht club. So yeah, if you've got a slip here, or if you're a reciprocal member from a different club, you're golden. But if you're here thinking I can just pop in, it's not a marina, it's a yacht club. So yeah, maybe call, you probably can rent a slip, but I just wouldn't count on it like a traditional like city marina. Okay, we are tied up here in Ashbridge's Bay. And the beach is the kind of the east side of Toronto. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful club. We're gonna go explore, but yeah, nice to have another slip. Okay, Ashbridge's has a really big clubhouse. You can't really tell from here because it's like an up sloping hill, but it's like a 2 or 3 story building. So that's like the 3rd story with a deck. And then this is the actual slips. Quite a few boats in here. I'd say this is about the size of my first club, Nepean Sailing Club. Also one of the bigger clubs in Ottawa. We found ourselves a nice little fire pit area with obviously the club barbecue, and it even has a space heater over there. So yeah, this would be a pretty fun place to hang out. Okay, a little late day ride. We're gonna take the scooter and the EUC through the beaches, right?
Yes, the beaches neighborhood area.
Supposed to be nice. So we'll show you, do a hyperlapse, and I'll have the vlog camera. So you'll see what we see. Again, the hyperlapse is just such a great tool for showing you what the surroundings look like without boring you to death, because this will go really quick. And yeah, well, one thing I noticed right away is this club must be huge, because there were so many cars parked everywhere. And yeah, so this club has got a lot of people that are there, but there's also a park immediately adjacent, so that park obviously might be the reason for some of these cars. But as you can see, the park is beautiful. And we found that in the whole Toronto area, and a lot of bigger cities in Canada have that. If you look on Google Maps, you can actually just highlight the bike paths, and it'll show you little green lines all over the Google map of where there are bike paths. And this is the beaches area of Scarborough, a very nice area of Toronto. And as you can see, these bike paths go on for a long time, and I'm sure we didn't even cover all of the options. They fork every once in a while, and then you get beautiful views of the water. And of course, we're eventually going to end up at Woodbine Beach, which is a big beach to, of course, suntan on and swim out of and all that. And then later on Canada Day, Woodbine Beach is exactly the location that they shoot the fireworks over, and we'll be out there anchored with our boat, seeing a bird's eye perfect view, unobstructed view of Canada Day fireworks. This is coming up probably in the next episode, but this is just the beauty of the park system in the Toronto area. And yeah, there's just so much to do, not only here in Scarborough, but later when we're in Toronto proper. Even downtown Toronto, there's huge bike lanes that are probably the width of a city street of just bikes and scooters and people on skateboards and all that stuff. So plenty to do and see, as long as you have a way of using it. Like you need a folding bike or a scooter, or in this case, you see me on my EUC. My EUC, just in case you're wondering, electric unicycle. The pros of it is the range. Because there's so little to it, this thing has like a 160 kilometer range, while Janice's scooter has maybe a 40 kilometer range. So if you want to go a long way, get yourself an EUC. The only downside is it's got a steep learning curve. Okay, we're at Woodbine Beach. It's a little late in the day for beaching, so not as many people as you would normally have. So we'll just see what the beach looks like. Yeah. Power boaters. Check it out. Pretty big beach. Okay, there's more park. So behind the beach is this boardwalk with a bike path beside it. And it goes on and on again. Great views. Obviously, that beach I just showed you is kind of sparsely populated with people right now because it's, as you can see, the sun's really low in the sky. On a Saturday weekend, midday, that thing is going to be just jammed with people. But yeah, now you get the people who are just out walking in the beautiful almost sunset. Now I got to admit something here. We were going in through this park, and you can see lots of bikers on this bike path, but I didn't see a lot of electric scooters. And definitely, I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 EUCs the whole time I was in this park. And it wasn't until we were pretty far away from where our boat was, so I started noticing these signs that say, no scooters. Oh no, it didn't say no EUC, but I guess the assumption is no electric vehicles. So I was like, oh, I don't know when I noticed it. I don't think at this point I'd noticed it yet. There's a bunch of signs going by, and then I'll finally just notice the scooter symbol. And I thought, jeez, I don't think we're supposed to be on this. Now, I don't think this is everywhere in Toronto, although I've heard some horror stories about Toronto having some really funky bylaws about electric scooters, pretty much citywide. But then again, later in another episode, you'll see us downtown Toronto, and I saw a ton of electric scooters down there. So either people just disregard this law, or this law is a fictitious made-up story about no scooters. Maybe it's just no scooters in certain areas. But when we finally realized it, I think right about there, I noticed what the heck, I've seen a few signs. So at that point, we went on roadways after that. We rode back most of the way along the side of a road until we saw these bike paths that parallel the roads, and we went on there. Never saw any signs on these kind of bike paths about no scooters. I think it might have just been in the Woodbine beach's actual park, because there's so many pedestrians. Maybe they've had collisions and they're just decided electric scooters can go way too quick. I mean, we go by the speed of a fast biker. I mean, it's not a motorcycle. I know these hyperlapses make it seem like we're absolutely flying, but the reality is we're going about the speed of a motivated cyclist. Sometimes you'll see us passing bikers, but if you really look closely, a lot of times it's because the bikers are kind of lollygagging. They're not really going full blast, at which point we can usually pass them. So at this point, we'd passed the entrance to where our boat would be, and we kept going because we wanted to see Cherry Beach, which is another beach in the other direction. And we're going to get there in the next minute or two, but I just wanted to let you know the quality of the image on these hyperlapse cameras goes down substantially once the light starts going down. They're not the greatest in low light, a little grainy, but it gives you the perspective of how far we've traveled and the kind of things you'll see. As you can tell, this is beautiful parkland, very green and lush, and you're in a big city like Toronto, so it's pretty impressive. And this is Cherry Beach right here. Just go across, you can see the water. There we go, Cherry Beach. So when we got back from our traveling adventure, we got on the boat and of course had a beverage or two as the sun was definitely setting. And you can see right there beside her is my EUC charging. And that is something to recognize. When you can get a reciprocal slip, or if you pay for a Marina slip, you get the benefits of shore power, which means this is the time to charge up our scooters, our EUC, anything, laptops, iPads, all that, because it's, unlimited power at this point. When it's not shore power, like when I'm anchored out, we can still go to shore with our scooter EUC. It just means that I can pretty much only comfortably charge these during the day when the solar is working. And this is us the next day leaving in a light rain. We always want to move on to the next spot. We could, if we paid or had a slip here for 3-4 days, you could scooter all the way into downtown Toronto from Scarborough. It's that close. In fact, that Cherry Beach path we went on probably got us a third of the way to downtown Toronto. But yeah, we want to anchor around Toronto. There's so much to see from your boat there. We'll definitely show you that in the next episode. But yeah, I mean, Scarborough, if you know somebody in the area and you want to get a slip for 3 or 4 days, you are not going to be bored. There's a lot to do in the area. And I'll just throw in this footage to show that, if the wind's going to cooperate a little bit, we will sail. This is a broad reach. We don't have very far to go. I'll just throw it up on Navionics. It's about less than an hour to go from Scarborough to Toronto, and that's with you going all the way around the outside of the peninsula to get there. If it was direct the way the crow flies, it would be like half an hour. But yeah, like the wind looks to be a broad reach here, so we just threw up the Genoa and let the free power of the wind push us towards Toronto. Well, clearly the wind got even lighter and it wasn't even worth sailing, because you can see I'm not even using the Genoa here, but we are there. You can barely see the skyline of Toronto dead ahead right now, and there's a CN Tower in there somewhere, but you just can't see it with the Canadian wildfire smoky smog, I guess. And yeah, but I want to save this for the next episode. Toronto has so many places you can anchor for free, so don't be scared like we were when we first went to Toronto. We're like, you better book a slip the entire time you want to be in Toronto, because otherwise what are you going to do? It's a big city. You can't just anchor. No, that's not true. So Wards Beach is on the left as we're passing it now. Lots of people anchor there overnight all the time. Even on the inner harbor here, which we're heading into now as we go by that freighter on the right. The inner harbor over by the Toronto Island, you can anchor there as well. And then there's 3 or 4 different places that I can say you can anchor for free. And then of course, if you want to be on the mainland, there are lots of yacht clubs and marinas that you can pay for a slip for the night. So it might not be a bad idea if you want to go to Wards Beach for a night to save some money, and then the next night go to a marina so you can top up your batteries and go to shore and provision and do all that stuff. Then yeah, that's probably what I would do. Spend a night at the anchor, spend a night at a marina, and vice versa. In our case, because we are a member of a yacht club, we had some reciprocals with one that we stayed for a couple of days was the National Yacht Club, which is right in downtown Toronto. And we'll show you that in the next episode. But I just wanted to show you Toronto is, well, there's a million things to do once you go to shore. Theaters, sporting events, concerts, tons and tons to do in Toronto. So if you have never been to Toronto and you're somewhere on Lake Ontario, you should really make the trip. And like I said, if you're on a budget, you can always anchor out, take your dinghy to shore, do that if you want. But then again, sometimes it's just easier to pay for the night, get the free power, and just have walking ability to go right to downtown Toronto and bike around or scooter around or whatever you want to do, that's what I would suggest. So that's it. Hopefully you found this episode entertaining and informative. If so, show the channel some love by giving it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this is Craig signing off, wishing you safe cruising. Okay, we made it to Toronto. We are anchored here beside Toronto Island. We were here 2 years ago, and I'm telling you, the Toronto skyline is breathtaking. Can you tell? No? That's because there's so many wildfires going on that the haze is absolutely crazy. The weather warnings are for like pollution in the air and all the stuff. Anybody who's seeing this, go back and look at the stuff I filmed 2 years ago when we were here, when the skyline was beautiful, clear. The skyline lit up at night was awesome. I don't know what we're going to see this year. Tomorrow is Canada Day. So there's going to be fireworks just over there. So we're going to check those out. I'm hoping the smogginess doesn't ruin the visuals. But yeah, this wildfire thing is really killing my cinematography. Damn it.